The way you assemble and execute your matches says something about where you are on a very specific spectrum. And today we're going to look at that spectrum and define its extreme ends. I'm Mike Quackenbush, and this is Till We Make It. If you are passionate about the craft of professional wrestling, and you're never done learning all about it, then you're in the exact right place. Join the Till We Make It tribe. Subscribe down below and enable those sweet, sweet notifications while you are at it. Or if you'd like to take your support of the Till We Make It mission to the next level, consider joining our community over on Patreon. There, you'll get instant access to over 150 exclusive posts that I've made for other like-minded people who just can't ingest enough knowledge about this crazy thing that we all love. And you can be part of it for as little as $5 a month. Today, let's define the spectrum of match construction as follows. At one end of this spectrum, you could construct a match live while you are in the ring, usually working just one or at most two spots ahead of what is going on right now. And this skill is essentially improvisation. And at the other end of that spectrum, there is a very different skill. We refer to it as calling a match, meaning that all of the spots have been decided in advance, and while you are performing, it is incumbent on you to be able to remember them in the correct order and then make them look as if they are happening spontaneously. So, whether you are adept at calling a match in the ring and improvising it as you go, or you are good at calling it all in advance and then recalling it in the moment and performing it organically, well, either of these does say something about the skill set that you already wield. And for the purposes of today's discussion, let's get this out of the way. We are focusing on the two extreme ends of a spectrum, but those aren't the only options. There are plenty of options that live in the middle of this spectrum. You could have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you end up with The Game of Love by Santana, but you also end up with a mixing of these two methods, and there's nothing wrong with that. Tons of matches are a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But today we're going to work on this extreme end and this extreme end and define some of those pros and cons. The question I get asked the most about the two ends of the spectrum is this: will either improvising the match live in the ring or calling it in advance insulate you against the potential for botching? And the answer is neither do. No, because you can make a mistake while improvising a spot live in the ring. The person that you're working with could mishear what you're calling or misinterpret a telegraph every bit as easily as you can forget the next spot in the sequence. Neither of these will insulate you against botches. However, a pro in the column of learning how to improvise your matches is this: when something does go wrong in the ring, having the ability to improvise is going to aid you in recovering much more gracefully. And the second question that I get asked most often about matches constructed from either end of this spectrum is this one: do matches which are called live in the ring or matches which are called in the back in advance yield better results? And while my instinct, of course, is to always say, no, one doesn't necessarily yield better results than the other, let's admit that whatever a better match is extraordinarily subjective. However, they do yield different results, and I'd characterize them for you like this. Matches which are improvised, called live in the ring, will often have a spontaneous energy to them, which you may find lacking in matches which are called in advance. Conversely, matches which are called in advance can feature intricate or complex spots that matches being improvised in the moment simply can't support. And here's the third thing I get asked the most on this topic: is one skill harder to learn than the other? And the truth is, this answer is different for everyone because everyone comes into the game with pre-existing skills, and that will be answered in part by the skills you already have. So chances are one will come to you very naturally and the other is going to require a lot of hard work and dedication to master. But that doesn't mean that you can't learn both. So, if you're wondering where to begin with all of this, I think start by answering this question. Which of these two skills are you better at? Are you better at memorizing and recalling, or at listening and reacting in the moment? If you're better at memorizing and recalling, start by learning how to call things in advance and then recall them while you're live in the ring. Or if you're better at listening and reacting in the moment, then try learning the skill of improvising or calling it live in the ring. When I was just starting out in professional wrestling, if you were incapable of improvising a complete match from end to end, if you didn't know how to walk and talk it all live in the ring, it was often said that you didn't know how to work. And back then, those who needed to rely on calling their matches in advance were often described with great derision as ballerinas. That is to say, you needed choreography in order to perform. And in that era, pro wrestling moves were never practiced in advance. That was the state of the art when I came into the business. Well, fast forward a few decades, and the state of the art has changed dramatically. Now, if you can't memorize and recall spots while performing in the ring, you are effectively obsolete. And one result of this paradigm shift is that the skill of improvisation has become undervalued because of the extreme value placed on the kinds of complex matches that Hiroshi Tanahashi or the Lucha Brothers produce. My favorite tag team match from the last 10 years is American Alpha versus the Revival from NXT TakeOver in Dallas. While this match has enough room to breathe, by that expression I mean enough room to permit moments of improvisation, the reality is this match is constructed at the other end of the spectrum. It was put together in advance, and I really do believe if those exact same 4 performers went to the ring to fill those 15 minutes and 11 seconds, and instead of constructing it in advance, it was all called live in the moment, it would have yielded dramatically different results. And what we did get instead, for my money, is a masterpiece. Recently, we passed 2 important milestones which have yet to be acknowledged here on the Till We Make It channel. First, we surpassed 250 videos on the channel, which I find to be remarkable because when I was starting this whole project, I really thought 48 would be the absolute most we could possibly get done. And second, the Till We Make It tribe has boomed to include more than 5,000 subscribers now. And I feel very encouraged by this uptick in interest in the Till We Make It project because for the last 2 years, I have poured myself into this. I am grateful for every liker, commenter, subscriber, and notification bell ringer out there, and I'm especially grateful to my patrons. So thank you, Alex. Thank you, Gio. Thank you, Andreas, for your support. This would not be possible without you, and I wanted you to know how very much I appreciate that.